Hello, my name is Naomi, and I work for the Southborough Public Library. We are here today to talk a little bit about Unwind, the one book, one school, one community book that we chose. When we went around, we asked the community what kind of books they'd want to read, the teens at Algonquin and Northborough, and from all those books that we received, we suggested a few more and read them. And this book was chosen because of the topics, the many topics there are to talk about revolving around this book, but one of them is about organ donation. Today, we have an educator from the New England Organ Bank, Penny Brown, who is here to tell us a little bit more about that part of the book and also about her story and the myths that are found both in the book and around us revolving around organ donation.
Thank you for having me. I read the book and it was very interesting. However, it is science fiction. There is not a word of truth in this book at all, unfortunately. And sometimes books like this or movies or TV put ideas into people's heads, so that's why I'm here to separate the fact from the myths.
Excellent. Would you like to start with telling us how you got involved with the New England Organ Bank volunteer program?
Certainly. I became involved because I received a kidney 16 years ago. If someone hadn't signed up to be an organ donor, I wouldn't be here today. So I think it's really important to spread the word and get people to sign up to be donors and understand what being an organ donor really is.
So when people are interested in getting to know whether or not they're going to donate organs or not, what are the common questions or concerns that you've noticed that they've had?
It depends upon the age. The teenagers who are just getting their permits and licenses, they're a lot more open. But people 30s, 40s have a lot more reservation because like in the 80s when organ donation was becoming more and more popular, for lack of a better word, Hollywood jumped on board. And they had movies and TV shows of people stealing organs, people going to the emergency room and they wouldn't bother saving them because they wanted to use their organs for other people, or the rich and famous. There's still stories out there about Dick Cheney and that. Rich and famous buying organs and getting preference. So all those myths are out there and people have concerns. Certainly, I would if I heard any of these.
So when you are, for example, in your case, when you were receiving the kidney, how did you find out where you were on the list, or did they just call you up out of the blue?
You never know when it's going to happen. In my case, it was Saturday night. I was watching Saturday Night Live, just shut it off, it's 1 a.m. and my phone rings. That was really bad. I'm like, who's calling me at 1 a.m.? And the voice was familiar, but I couldn't figure it out. And then he says, oh, we have a kidney for you. And the shock is just amazing because I was just so sick and I had pretty much lost the will to live at that point. And so every day was a struggle. It was a struggle waking up in the morning. I'd be upset that I did wake up on some days. So I got that call and just every emotion goes through you, and I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, packing some stuff because I've got to rush to the hospital. I'm calling my dad and I can't get him because he's going to drive me to the hospital, and notifying my neighbors and all this. And then it just dawned on me all of a sudden. I just dropped to my knees and I'm like, this poor boy. The doctor told me he was only 22 years old. He was in an accident and he had severe head injuries and they couldn't save him. And this poor kid died. And now I can live. And so I felt selfish because of the joy I was feeling. And this child died, and there's a family grieving. So I had a whole run of the gamut of emotions there.
How long did you have before you had, from when you left to when you had to get to the hospital? Is there a time limit?
When they call you, you go.
So you have to be there right away. If
Right
you're
away.
not there within an hour, they call the next person, or?
Well, I knew that my kidney was coming from Ohio, so I didn't have to speed down the highway, and it was coming from me. So if I had said no, it would have gone on to the next person. But they were expecting me, and I was going to be there. Kidneys are very fortunate in two ways. Dialysis kept me alive. I wouldn't say I was living, but I was alive until a kidney became available. But other organs don't have that luxury. People who are waiting for hearts and liver, they're usually in the hospital, and they're
already there.
Weeks. They've got weeks or days to live, and those organs don't have as much time to be out of the body, like lungs and heart are 4 to 6 hours from harvesting to transplant, and lungs
so it has
that
to be in the
4 hours.
same
It's closer
city.
to 4.
So the recipient would
area.
have to be in the same city, perhaps.
General area.
So you talked about the lungs, the kidney, and the heart. What other organs can somebody donate?
Heart, kidney, lungs, liver, pancreas, and small intestines. And then those are organs, and that's what everybody thinks about, because organs are life-saving. But there's also tissue too. People don't think about tissue. One person who passes away can save 8 lives through organ donation, but through tissue, you can enhance the lives of up to 50 people. I mean, that's skin. And skin can save the life of a burn victim, and people get scared of skin, but it's only a small amount they usually take from the back, and then they stretch it out. This bone can be put into teeth, can be put into knees instead of having artificial knees, and it grows into your own knee again. Bone to replace bone cancer. Veins, tendons, all these sports injuries, that's where these veins and tendons come from. Heart valves. So much can be done from one person, and it makes sense to be a donor. You're saving lives, and what is someone going to do? Are you going to bury them or go up in smoke? Why not help people for a better life, or even to save their life?
If you are an organ donor and your family is left behind, do you get to meet the person who receives that particular item? How would that happen?
Well, organ donation is anonymous, but there is a procedure. I had mine here in New England, which went through the New England Organ Bank. So I was just excited. I wanted to know all about this person who gave me life. He's part of me now. I want to know everything about him. So there's a procedure where I write a letter to the family, and it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life, because I'm happy for life. They're still grieving, and I waited 4 months before I had to let that period go. And you write a letter to them, and you can use your first name, but you can't use the location in that. And it goes to the organ bank, and they read it, making sure everything is appropriate. They go and notify the family, and they say, we have a letter here from one of the recipients. Would you like to receive it? And they had the option of saying yes or no. So fortunately, the family of my donor did say yes. And they got my letter, and it took them almost another year to write back to me, which is okay. But when they did, it was miraculous. It was 7 pages, and I know everything about him. I have a picture of him. I carry it. It's usually in my purse. I always have this picture with me. He's my hero. Without him saying yes to organ donation, I wouldn't be here. Sorry, I get a little bit emotional. But I also have the larger picture at home on the bookcase. And myself and anybody who's received the organ, whether they know who it is or not, they're so grateful. I wake up, and now when I wake up, I thank God for another day, and I thank Scott, my donor, because, again, I wouldn't be here without him.
Now, I'm hearing from you when we're talking about the organs that it seems like it's very difficult. You have to make sure they're fresh, etc. How many people who are organ donors on their license, or however they sign up for it, how many of them have their organs actually go to a recipient?
Well, of all the people who sign up, your chances of being an organ donor is only 1%, because you have to die in a hospital or a clinical setting.
Only a hospital or clinical setting? Not, you can't just die when you're driving down the road and get hit by a car?
Not for organs. They can do that for tissue.
They can do that for tissue, but if you're in that situation, they don't have anything around to help out. So just a hospital or clinical setting.
Yeah, you have to be kept on a respirator, and of course they're going to try to save your life first. There's a lot of rumors out there. Came from some TV shows about letting people die just so they can take their organs for other people, and that's just, so far from the truth. When someone comes into an emergency room from a major accident, by law the organ bank has to be notified and come in. And the whole group comes in and they just sit and wait. They don't know who it is, they know nothing. And the organ bank is the only people who have access to the list of donors. The emergency room people, their only job is to save your life. They have nothing to do with organ donation at all. The hospital has no way of finding out if you're an organ donor or not. The only reason they look at your license at all, if ever, was if you came in and they didn't know who you were. That's about the only reason. And just because it's on your license, they don't know. You could have taken yourself off. They have no way of knowing. So they try to save that person's life as best they can. But once they're pronounced dead, and it's usually brain death, there's some cardiac death things. Once that person is pronounced dead, they come to the organ bank people, we give them the name, we have the list, we look it up, and then our people take it from there. And along with all the surgeons and everything else, we also provide counselors, and grief counselors for the families who were there, who have just lost a loved one. So it's quite a process, but safeguards.
And only 1% of those.
Yeah, 1%. So we do need more donors, and the list is growing. There's over 123,000 people. It's men, women, and children too, who are waiting for a life-saving organ in the United States right now.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
One last issue is people are concerned about is rich and famous getting organs. And in the United States, it is illegal to buy or sell an organ. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. Also, rich and famous have no priority. There's no names on the list. You're a number in a medical case. So that doesn't happen. There are safeguards.
Interesting. So if you are interested in becoming a donor, all you would have to do is go to New England Organ Bank and take a look. There's probably a little place on there to be able to do that.
Most people do it on their license. But if you want to do it now, or if you don't want that little heart on your license, you can go direct to our website, which is www.donatelifenewengland.org, and you can register right online.
Well, thank you so much. I'd like to thank the teens for choosing Unwind. It was a very interesting book. There's about 3 others in the series now. And I would also very much like to thank you, Penny Brown, for coming today.
Well, thank you for having me.